Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Here is Rosario Lawrence with LeadHer Talks and Vanessa Montañez, as well as Chantel Camarillo. And we are excited today. We've had a lot on our minds. There's a lot going on in our country, in our jobs every day. But one of the things that we want to bring to you is just relatable talk, right? And so one of the things we were talking just a couple minutes ago was around distance learning, the talk about kids potentially going back. There is going to be some sort of hybrid for many school districts. And so we just started thinking, hey, this is definitely something we should probably talk about. So I shifted my attention quickly to Chantel because out of the three of us, Chantel has little ones. I happen to have a college student doing distance learning at home. It's a little bit different dynamic. It's a little bit more like a partner in the household who's helping me a little bit with my 12-year-old and the pets, and a partner in terms of sharing kind of that office space, that dynamic, seems to be doing just fine. And my little one is independent. You give her schedule, and I've been pretty lucky, right? We have our ugly days. But I was thinking, Chantel, I cannot even imagine having a kindergartner, right? And then second grade?
Yeah, second grade.
Right? Wow. So if I am struggling with certain days of the week, how are you doing it? I know one thing I did want to set the tone is having the relationship and being married with a principal. I know also how teachers prepared for the year. They were in there doing, training and, sessions about how to cope with the distance and how to, also even how to collaborate as teachers, just like we're doing at work. So how are you then implementing your timelines? Are you setting schedules, or what are you doing?
Well, I will say, we're all on this crazy boat together, and it definitely has been uncharted territory, uncharted waters that many of us as parents, whether you're a single mom, a single dad, we really don't have a guide, an instruction book. And so we're going to do what we can and utilize what would be the resources we have. And for me, that resource, my number one resource, has been my village, to make what would be this distant learning for me possible, not just for me, but for my kids as well. Like Rosario said, I do have a 5-year-old who's in kindergarten. And then I have my son who is 7 years old and has an IEP. So that's an individualized education program, right? Kind of like special needs. And so it's a completely different dynamic compared my daughter to my son. But needless to say, what's worked for me, and by all means, this is just a recommendation. I think that if you guys are able to manage, keep doing what you're doing. Kudos to you, more power to you. But for me, it's been extremely helpful to manage almost it's time blocking. It's a calendar, a set schedule for myself, and I incorporate really my work schedule, my appointments that can be, my Zoom presentations that I have to conduct for my business, and also incorporate my kids. And so I integrate those two schedules together so that I can function and that I can meet my required deadlines as an employee, right? As well as meet what would be my obligations and responsibilities for my children. The other one too, meal prep. Kids eat. Kids are going to be eating, snacking, and I meal prep the night before. Also, I try to incorporate some outdoor play for my kids. Believe it or not, my husband and I did some do-it-yourself outdoor play since a lot of the parks with the stay-at-home orders closed. We incorporated some really good, good old fun. We buried some tires in the outdoor, actually in the yard, and created an outdoor play for my kids with a pirate boat. You name it, they love it. So we do that too. And as a working mom, I find myself having to take a break. I ensure that during lunchtime for my kids, right around 11:30 as I prep their meal. I'm taking that time as well to sit with them and eat with them as well. And so make sure to time block that. You need that, okay? Just to disconnect a little from from work. Also, leverage your village first and foremost, your friends, your sphere of influence, right? For me, my mother, bless her heart, has been just a powerhouse pillar of strength and support for me, for my kids, for my husband. That's another one. And also, don't be afraid to share some of your concerns or ask for additional resources with the teachers. They've been just instrumental. I think that for me has been the teachers with this experience has been really one of the hidden treasures, as I've seen how they incorporate their daily plans with my kids. Just my respects to all of the teachers out there. They're doing a phenomenal job. Um, and you know, I want to bring it to Vanessa because, you know, many of you may not know, but Vanessa has been pretty much a distant learner right now prior to the COVID. She's currently getting her PhD, which, you know, kudos. And but needless to say, I think I know, Vanessa, you've already experienced this before COVID and then, you know, post COVID kind of deal. But what are your recommendations for the distant learning for those parents that are listening in right now as well?
Yeah, Chantal. So I've been blessed that I've been in this program for 4 years. So prior to that, I had never really done distance learning, virtual learning, where it's a hybrid where you meet in person, but most of it is online. But it's been a great experience because one of my highest recommendations is be with a cohort, have a team that you're going to embrace. So if you're starting, whether it's school, elementary, high school, college, any level of education, make a team and that you're going to be accountable with that team. Believe it or not, your teammates become like an extended form of your family and your friends, and you grow together because you're holding each other accountable. That is definitely one of the most critical things that I did. When I started in my group, it was a group of 20. At the end, there was only 7 of us, and then we had 2 teams, Team A and Team B. And we called ourselves Team Avengers, which I totally love. But you're a team, so you want to make sure that you're accountable, that you're doing your end of the job, and also they're enlightening you, because sometimes you may not know the answer or a formula or whatever it is, you're like stuck, and you need to have that team. So you want to do that. The second thing I'm going to recommend is right now, don't be afraid to ask your teacher for their information. What is their email? When can I call you offline for an emergency? Like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. Because you need to have that accessibility for your professors, your teachers. And believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, most of your teachers are going to give you their cell phone numbers so you could text them in the middle of the night or whenever you have like, it's an emergency scenario with whatever formula or math problem you have or homework assignment that you just don't get. So don't be afraid to ask for that information. And then look outside your centers of influence. If you're in elementary, high school, go to Boys and Girls Club. They have really great resources out there for tutors that are free. Your universities also have tutors that are online and free. There's resources. And also for us millennials, no, just kidding. For everyone else that is a student, the internet, oh my Lord, it is amazing. So
Yes.
YouTube, let me tell you, sometimes I forget how to do an Excel pivot table. I'm like, how the hell do I do this? So I go into YouTube and I start looking up and Googling it and seeing who has the most likes and the most visits, because that's a good indication. If we have like 1 million plus viewers, there's something there. Also, there's Khan Academy. That is a fabulous free resource to all education levels. What we're going to do after this, I'm going to put a document where all the links will be there to give you free resources for all levels of education, because I know it takes a village, and here it is a free village on the internet. So I definitely like, also there's like TED Talks, there's TED Ed. So TED Ed also has those free sites. YouTube I like, there's Coursera, like Course Area. So we'll provide you those links. There's resources out there for all levels, even preschool. So what I'm going to say is definitely use your resources. The internet is fantastic for that. So don't be stuck. Ask your professor. And then also, it's really important that you set your atmosphere right. Where are you going to be most comfortable learning? I like my office space, but then I want to make it look pretty and make it look my space. So if it's redecorating, decluttering, or putting more books to get you inspired, do it. Also, I love listening to music while I'm studying. I'll listen to classical music to feel inspired. Whatever that is, put the music on. Change the atmosphere. Sometimes you're like, you know what, this is not doing it for me. Go to the dining room or go outside, take a break. You could do, if you have the internet access and you have a really good Wi-Fi, then go study outside and take a break. Sometimes the fresh air is definitely worth it. So I would say have a routine. And if the routine is not working, break it up by studying in a different place, whether it's an office, a library. Some libraries are open, some Starbucks, whatever it takes. Go outside if you have an outside patio. So those are my tidbits on how to keep it together with the pandemic. And just hold yourself accountable too. Set yourself, I know Chantal was mentioning her calendar. I live by my calendar. I put all my personal and my school and work in one calendar to balance myself, because without it, I would be lost, because there's so much going on. You're like, oh my God, I have an appointment, these calls, virtual meetings, Zoom meetings. So definitely live by your calendar, whatever that is. We have Google Calendar that's free. I personally am an Outlook Microsoft person, so that's what's worked for me for a long time. So just those are tips of the trade that I would definitely share, and we'll put those resources on our link after this on our call. So you're not alone. We're all out there doing it. We're going to get through this together. So that's my tip for today.
Awesome. And so if you had to say, Chantel, just the one thing that you really think stands out for you as your sense of relief as a mom, as a wife, as a professional, the one thing you're doing that really is bringing you gratitude, satisfaction, and a feeling of you're making it all happen, what would that be?
Honestly, I feel like I'm supporting on the back end, but the ones that really deserve center of attention and just my respects, mis respetos to the teachers. I have been just blown away with the incredible performance, just everything that they've done. If I could show you some of the work that my daughter has done, including my son, I just have to give them so much kudos for what they do day in and day out. I've been extremely impressed, and I think many parents have probably been accessing Schoology just like I have. It's all a new platform, but needless to say, I've been extremely content that the teachers have been extremely accessible to connect with me, to text as well. All of that speaks volumes to me. And so I know that I'm not alone, that I have the backup, that I have the village. And this isn't just my mom and my family, but literally the teachers behind it, that they're so passionate and committed to my children and the other children that participate in these Zoom meetings. And I see that as I sit with my son, because most of the time I sit as he's participating in the class. And when I see how they are conducting their classes, for me, it's inspirational. So I just have to say thank you to the amazing teachers that are just doing what they do, because we're in it here for you as well.
What's interesting, I remember from day one when you got in the pandemic, because this is new uncharted waters, right? Everyone is kind of like a teacher. And you're like, I don't think I can do this, Vanessa. Oh my God. But now hearing you talk, I know that you have profound respect for teachers and everything they do, because now I think Rosario and Chanel, you definitely are like hybrid teachers too. So you get to see what they go through, what real teachers, because now, you know, I think it's a little different because your kids could actually hate their teachers and their parents, right? Mom, I hate you. So how has that been like for you, Rosario? Now that, I mean, you have like your college student and then your You're she's in junior high now, right?
Middle school. So
Yeah.
it's a little different. I definitely leverage, like you say, your community, your extended network. So I definitely have a tutor that comes to my home, and she's a Moore Park High School. She's going to be the valedictorian for class of 2021 in the city that I live in. And I happen to have been really lucky to have been scrolling through Facebook and find her mom do a post, and she's amazing. She volunteers. I mean, the epitome of just an exceptional student. So I reached out and I have her come into my home and help me with Paloma. So I definitely leveraging the resources. Like we said, we all have different strengths as a parent. So I just knew that I was going to really struggle with that. I struggled it during the spring, wanted to pull my hair out. And it's like, I can't blame the situation. I can't blame whether teachers were prepared or not at the time. None of us were prepared. So, you got to see a little bit of all the angles and the perspectives that we all had as parents at the time. So it worked out perfect. I said, this is going to be a great fit. I'm going to help support my community. This young adult who's about to take off to college here in the short term, and I get to meet someone new. My daughter gets to look up to this amazing young girl, and it's working out really well. So with that being said, that's been my challenge and my happiness, right? I've just figured a solution for it. And outside of having dirty dishes all day long, because my kids love to.
That's okay. That's
Well,
okay.
Heidi, let me ask you, has the price of, you're spending more money now on food, or is it the same budget as prior COVID and
That's, Vanessa, you bring up a good point. And just, I must say that I constantly read various articles. One of my favorite platforms are Huffington Post. And I've read some of those articles coming in that I think everyone who's currently working from home, we have actually increased our expenditures, right? When it comes to utility usage, when it comes to food, we're not, unfortunately, we're not eating out as we once did, right? Because we would work outside of our homes. We were able to wine and dine. Our kids were technically at school, whether we provided them a lunch or they ate actually meals provided at school. The reality is that we have incurred additional expenditures, right? And given the fact that we're working from home, we're using our printers, not the office printer. So yes, we definitely have incurred additional expenditures. That's just a reality. Another reality has been our stress levels. To be honest with you, I know it sounds all rosy and whatnot, what we're saying, like it's worked for us. I'm going to be real. There's moments where it's very stressful. My husband, bless his heart, he's a frontline worker. He's a union member. He's considered a frontline worker, an essential worker. And sometimes he's not here, right, to help provide that additional support or manpower because he's in a hospital setting. He's helping, right, our community, right, during this COVID environment, which has kind of just changed everything upside down for many of us. And I would say that was something really interesting that I read in Huffington Post was the relentless despair of being a working mom in 2020. Great article by Catherine Pearson. And it talks about how, childcare is not there for many of us, right? And technically it might be pretty much up for permanently close some of those child cares. But they also talk that for millennial moms, they're 3 times more likely than dads to say that they've been unable to work during the pandemic, incorporating the distant learning and having their kids there. And then when we talk about how we're struggling, right? Because let's face it, we may experience anxiety, we may experience loneliness, we may experience depression. That's a reality. And you need to know that you have to have additional resources for that as well, right? And so it's just interesting that we're experiencing a plethora of feelings, emotions, as we are all dealing with this the way we can. And so I just wanted to highlight that there as well, because I mean, we're supposed to survive this, you know, and again, we don't have a to-do manual as to how we can navigate through these waters. So I just wanted to share that with you guys as well.
And I love the fact of pointing out how it's not perfect, as good as all these resources can sound and whatnot. And it's been a battle of, okay, am I doing things right? And am I helping my children? Am I helping myself? Am I able to really do my job at the best of my ability and whatnot? So we happen to be in a unique platform in our industry because we do have and have been for many years working from home, working remote, working on the road. The car is your office, that type of environment for all three of us. But you do even see it, those that have been the employee that goes to a brick and mortar and has a job where they have a desk in their environment, have never really had to really practice that. And now here you have the dynamic with the children at home when you have them at home. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because I really want us to really, you know, just be real about it, that it is a struggle, and it's okay if we're having our day off. You know, I've talked to you guys about, as my friend, you know, my life according to Facebook, everything's so peachy and rosy. Yeah. And, you know, we want to portray and put out the best and our best foot forward. I think we all do. It's just natural as human beings, I would think. But I really want to say it with this LeadHer Talks is that we have our off days and days where I'm like sitting here. I think at the beginning, you guys heard my dogs bark. That happens every day, all day. My kids say, "Oh my God, Mom, you're showing me your big eyes." Like, stop, you know, like go away. That's me sometimes. It's
the mom look.
Yeah, mom look, right? Which I
remember that was when I was a little girl.
Right? I can't stand that look, right? But it's like, hey, I know I do. The bottom line is we're all doing our best, keep pressing on, and the day you just want to scream and shout, it's okay. I've done it numerous times the last couple of months.
It's funny because one of my girlfriends is a teacher, and she talked about, she's a teacher here in the Pasadena School District. She's amazing. I love her and her friends. And she's saying that sometimes a Latino household like ours, there's multiple families living in a house, or space is, you know, it's not as often a smaller space, right? So I would say invest in headsets. So if you're doing the distance learning with the kids, because if you have multiple people in the household, or dad wants to watch sports and the kids have to study, I would say invest in some good headsets so they connect to their laptop. And most of the schools, thankfully, in different school districts provide Chromebooks, notebooks, or laptops. But I would say connect to a headset, whether it's on a smartphone with a headset or your laptop. I think it would be great when you have a larger household, you know, with extended people watching TV, or there's a lot of commotion or children in the household.
You bring up, yeah, that you're absolutely right. There's times when I'm conducting a conference call and Aiden's sitting next to me, I will ensure to instruct him to be quiet, headset. So you're absolutely right. And I get to see that with the other kids participating in the Zoom, they have their headsets, and it does eliminate that feedback. Like I had mentioned, also with kids, you know, they're so resilient. They soak up so much like a sponge, right? It's amazing. They've got their Zoom etiquette 101 down. But as parents too, I just want to just emphasize to also, you know, take time off sometimes from work. I know we're working long hours, and you know, there's this whole fear factor of like, oh, we need to work more and more, and you know, I'm guilty. I'm on that same boat. But look at your vacation times. Look at whether or not, you know, you need a break. Although you're at home and you're maybe going to take vacation at home, but you know what? It's so well worth it too. I just recently put in a 1-week request, and yes, I was home, but you know what? It was the best vacation I had. Just to disconnect and just know that I was okay. Right? You need that mental break. So I'm also going to put in that little recommendation.
So last thing I'll add, or I will ask, is, as a result of distance learning, what do you see your children and or you as a student that you can say has been an uplift as a result of it? Let's go, Vanessa.
As a result of COVID and the distance learning, I am a lot more comfortable talking on Zoom and virtual events than I've ever been before. And because of the pandemic and COVID, LeadHer Talks came out of that because we want to go ahead and bring some motivation and empower others. So to me, it's just the comfort and the ease of speaking now. I always feel like a news anchor talking and educating. So yeah, I'm a lot more comfortable with cameras. What about you, Kathy?
I think for the most part, for my kids, when I look at my kids, I know that this is going to be a skill set that they will definitely incorporate moving forward. Whether it's, if this continues, it's only going to help them. It's not going to hinder them. And I see that because the reality is these are skill sets that we've had to incorporate. Many, organizations has had to just shift, incorporate technology to connect with, whether it's their referral sources, whether it's their clients, whether it's customers, their base. And we're all having to, again, we're all in uncharted territory and we're having to embrace technology. And I think that this is going to be a skill set that our kids are definitely going to leverage and utilize into the future. And so my hat's off to the kids, to the teachers, and to the parents that are making this a reality.
Awesome.
Mario?
So for me, the biggest takeaway is that I have the big upswing and positive is my children have both their love and passion for food and culinary and the independence of actually applying that and executing it has been a huge upswing for me. So it became really quickly the last couple months where I didn't really have to plan out their lunches. I just have to provide, and then it's like they magically made it happen. But the upswing was I realized how much they love the culinary part of life. I don't think that I would have really realized to the extent that they did if it wasn't a result of COVID. And the other piece is also kind of just the struggle of them having to be a little bit more independent. So granted, I have a college student who just became extremely driven and focused, like I've never seen that young man ever before. But with the little one is really seeing her, okay, have to apply myself, seeing herself fail, and then going ahead and then, okay, I can pick myself back up. And also me as a mom, learning to let go. I've tended to be somewhat of a helicopter parent and a bit also like hands off, but yet kind of helicopter behind the scenes. And I've had to really let go. So I've even had positive outcomes as a parent and learning as we move forward. So I was just curious with that. So, because I think there's been some positive things out of distance learning as a result of COVID. So that maybe our friends, all the LeadHers, can then write a note in the comments when we post what has been the positive swing or positive outcome that you have experienced as a result of distance learning, COVID, and all that, or anything that has just been a positive, because I think we should always end the struggle with, what we're learning and how we're overcoming so that we could all be motivated.
Yeah, I think if we share even pictures or posts or links that helped everyone. Chantal, I would love for you to put your little playground and your hopscotch so people can see how beautiful it is.
Absolutely.
You have like 3 different areas. I think that would be awesome. So then they can get their creative juices and say, you know what, I don't really need a large space. I can get this in a little area and just a different experience, and it's not so costly. So the kids can have a good experience outside, because I think kids need some fresh air and just you know, take a walk, like all of us take a break, like Rosario takes her morning walks too, just to get your juices flowing. I think we all need that routine.
Yeah, I definitely will do that. But yes, please do share all your positive comments and private message us if you need any additional information or resources as well that we all shared here today. But this is LeadHer Talks, and this is what we bring to you today.
Awesome. Have a great rest of the week. See you guys in a week.
Bye.
Friday.